Black Sea Fleet commander killed. UAF special operations continue.
Whoa, holy shit. That was a hell of a blast.
Gerasimov is done. UAF hits warehouses and headquarters. A series of explosions shakes Crimea, Moscow, St. Petersburg, and Russia's Black Sea Fleet. Massive detonation. Russian FSB officers' headquarters blown up. Everyone's been liquidated.
No fucking way. Another hit, can you believe it?
Oil refineries are burning. Railway hubs and unique satellite equipment have been destroyed. UAF strikes the Black Sea Fleet, destroying boats. Information also emerged that the GUR may have liquidated a Black Sea Fleet vice admiral. Breaking news, friends! Sensational news. An FSB officer was blown up in Moscow. The first deputy commander of Russia's Black Sea Fleet has been liquidated. This is likely an SBU and GUR special operation. Watching for details. But with no flagship, there's no commander. Makes sense. And in the Kursk region, a major general, the deputy commander-in-chief of the Russian Navy, Mikhail Gudkov, was liquidated. A series of GUR, SBU, and Armed Forces special operations continues. A powerful strike was launched on an ammo depot near Donetsk. Massive detonation. The former head of the Luhansk Occupation Administration was liquidated. This is the SBU's work. The so-called former mayor of Luhansk was blown up. We'll discuss all this, the brilliant SBU, UAF, and GUR special operation with top analyst Alexander Demchenko right now.
Generals destroyed, the top military command destroyed, officers, colonels, and so on, all destroyed. The entire top brass of the 8th Combined Arms Army has been decapitated. The Russian army has no one left. I don't know how much more has to happen on the territory of the Russian Federation for them to finally kick out that drunk General Gerasimov. I think that the 8th Combined Arms Army of the Russian Federation effectively no longer exists. Because the missiles, in case anyone didn't know, were launched at the facilities where the Russian 8th Combined Arms Army was stationed. Those fools probably thought that Ukraine was no more, that Ukraine's missiles wouldn't strike that far. Though what's far if Ukraine has already struck as far as Irkutsk? I don't know how much more has to happen on the territory of the Russian Federation so they'd finally get rid of that drunk General Gerasimov once and for all, who's just sacrificing his own people in massive numbers. First of all, well, Putin doesn't care. And second, under whose watch Kursk has already been taken, and during whose time 41 planes have already been destroyed. And the Crimean bridge was blown up. And now they've just gone and decimated an entire army, Russia's 8th Combined Arms Army in Donetsk. They were just bragging about how, look, all of Luhansk is ours. The whole region is ours. Then an oil refinery in the Luhansk region was hit. Then the railways, the train tracks in the Donetsk region were hit to keep them away, to stall the offensive, to make it suffocate. Missiles were flying over Crimea. Drones were flying. And they're not showing anything in the public groups anymore, just some cries and squeaks in Crimean groups. Oh, they're coming. Oh, what are we going to do? You shouldn't have come there, and you had no business settling down there. Why the hell did you come there to occupy someone else's land, you occupiers? That's it. And the Crimean bridge is always a problem. There's still a trickle of traffic there. No one's coming in, no one can get out. They're stuck. You see? They're stuck. What gets me most, Dasha, in this whole story, it's not that I'm surprised. Putin hasn't surprised me for a very long time. But let's just say I have this bad feeling, a nasty aftertaste, because I realize Putin is planning a series of terrorist attacks. In the coming days and weeks, there will be a major series of attacks. Did I tell you about the attacks? There was Bryansk, there was Kursk, there was Voronezh. A huge number of civilians were killed by Putin and the FSB. I'm saying it once again. In the coming days and weeks, there'll be a series of attacks across Russia, most likely in Moscow, maybe in other central or key regions and cities of the Russian Federation. What do I mean by that? Well, if you noticed, Vnukovo Airport was recently almost destroyed. That is, a Russian interceptor missile shot down a Ukrainian drone, which wasn't even targeting Vnukovo. It was heading for military targets. It shot down the drone and it fell right into the airport courtyard, into, well, the courtyard near the airport. They didn't evacuate people. The covert plan was in effect. So obviously no takeoffs, no landings, all flights canceled, everything stalled, the boards aren't working. But thousands of people are just stuck there waiting on the airport grounds. They're not being evacuated, nothing's being done with them. The airport's blocked, everything's shut, the area's closed, buses aren't running. That's it, they're there, civilians, Muscovites. Well, so they were likely preparing a strike, the killing of thousands of people, right there on the spot, so they could then blame it all on Ukraine. But why? It's a gift for Putin's holiday, which, do you know what it's called? A total mess, or as they say in Ukrainian, a disaster. That's what they have in Russia. Utility rates are going up by 40 to 45%. If you take all the federal, regional, and city taxes and add them all up, the utility rates, a taxi driver revolt, every third taxi driver didn't show up for work. Gazprom is down $1 trillion, it's bankrupt. And who's going to pay? The average Russian citizen. It's a catastrophe. They call it a recession, but in plain Russian, it's a total mess. And so Vladimir Putin has no money for the war. Everyone is saying it, everyone knows it. Nabiulina knows, Silvanov knows, even Sechin and Patrushev know there's no money left for the war, and Putin knows it too. So what happens now? I'll tell you what they'll do. Push forward, escalate. On one hand, Sumy, Belarus, the southeast direction, just to fake some victories and sell something to the masses. And secondly, of course, to make it cheaper, or abolish the contract army in Russia, putting everything on a mobilization footing. Mobilization. Why the hell pay this cannon fodder that'll be wiped out in 3 weeks anyway, becoming foul, stinking, occupying compost for the Ukrainian soil? If you can do the same thing without paying them. So they're now planning mass terror attacks, a series of attacks across Russia. I don't know what will burn. Whether it'll be the Yaroslavsky Central Station or some other station in Russia. Will the gum department store burn? Will there be explosions in the metro? I don't know, Dasha, what it will be. Will they blow up Ostankino along with Ernst to hell? I don't know. But I understand perfectly that from Luzhniki to Prechistenka, from Prechistenka to I don't know where, all the way to Kashirka, absolutely everything will burn. Because Putin needs to escalate now, to mobilize the population and throw them in again. He's going all in. This is his final desperate push. Because there's no money left. Few noticed, but this is important news that just came out. Abramovich suddenly pulled out of Connecticut in America. All his cash, he's selling off his steel mills right now. He invested $5 billion there, $5 billion, $5,200 million. That's the minimum estimated value. He's selling it for $50 million right now. Wait, so what happened? I'll explain what happened. Okay, Putin was given a clear signal that sanctions are coming. Patrushev or whoever flew to Washington and spoke with Trump's people, they were told to pull their money out because they're about to get hit hard from all sides. And Putin told his bagman, the one who holds his money, Abramovich, he said, Roma, get the money out now. Immediately. Whatever you get out, you keep. Take it. Roma agreed on 50 upfront and 450 in severance over several months, but whether Roma will manage to finalize it is unclear. A 95% loss on just one business. The entire Evraz group is moving back to Moscow. Putin is shutting down Abramovich in Russia. Abramovich is finished. Putin's wallet has simply died. That's the big news, Dasha. So Putin has problems inside Russia and outside Russia. And Putin must now escalate and push forward. So there will be bombings. He's already doing them every few days. Massive bombing of Ukraine. He's setting anti-records.
Yes.
About 500 drones, 60 missiles, and so on recently. Again today, Zaporizhzhia, Odessa. It's unclear what's next. But there will be bombings, terror attacks, and sabotage. And this is what Putin will do now. He will do this on a massive scale. Vladimir Putin, just you watch. This is my prediction for you. You often ask at the end of the show, what's the forecast? This is the forecast. Terror attacks. In the coming days and weeks, terror attacks. And everything will burn. A man who could destroy houses with ordinary civilians, who could blow up and terrorize the metro 4 times, the Moscow one, who could just take and destroy a neighboring country like that. He's capable of anything. Who was ready to destroy a civilian train in the Bryansk region. He's ready to go all the way now. He has no other choice. He's going to shed the ballast now. The ballast for him is Russians.
The Sapsan ballistic missile is entering mass production. We've just seen how missiles flew towards Crimea, missiles flew towards Donetsk and Luhansk. And what will happen next? Will missiles fly at military targets in Moscow and St. Petersburg?
Everything will fly, that's clear, Dasha. I'm worried about completely different things. That the Sapsan will fly and the long-range Neptune and other missiles being developed. Do you think only 2 missiles are being developed? Different versions, hundreds of missiles have been developed and are being stockpiled for strikes. Notice how today's situation and from yesterday to today differs from previous ones. Let me explain, it's not just drones anymore, missiles are flying. Missiles are flying en masse. This means they're stockpiling, the British, French, and Europeans are supplying everything. It means NATO summit decisions are right, Europe has accepted the challenge and will strike. And unlike Putin, Europe has the money for this. That's why Putin is whining in Minsk, Belarus, claiming he'll scale back, hopefully for good, and just start cutting all defense spending. But the reason is simple, and as I wrap up, I always say this. Putin has no money for the war. The climax is approaching, the end is near, friends. But that's not the point, Dasha. What worries me about this finalization of the process? I'm worried that Putin has surely set his sights on taking control of Belarus. That he intends to use Belarus as a springboard, whether Lukashenko likes it or not, either for offensive actions against Ukraine, Kyiv, Chernihiv, or for air raids on central Ukraine, Kyiv, Chernihiv, or the north and center, or even for a direct attack on the Baltic states. But we've discussed this often. I'm considering another scenario. Do you know which one, Dasha? I suspect that, yes, in the near future, Putin will try to remove Lukashenko. I think we'll see a coup d'etat in Belarus soon. That Putin, surely, he has a plan B. He has a plan B. He has a plan B, according to which Lukashenko must be removed. All his security is already bought. He's surrounded by agents. His press secretary, Natalia Eismont, is a KGB agent. Everyone knows this. A female agent. Everyone knows that his Wolfovich, the Security Council secretary, works for the Kremlin. Everyone knows his prosecutor general works for the Kremlin. He only has his defense minister and his son, Viktor Lukashenko, who saves him constantly and who keeps his paratroopers ready in case they try again, like a few years ago, to remove Dad. And Vladimir Putin wanted to remove him during all those rallies in 2020. And Lukashenko knew that perfectly well, and he knows everything about it. But Gazprom's money is hidden there. Many things were hidden in 2020. But Dasha, what's important now? I think that if Vladimir Putin needs Belarus and Lukashenko is turning around now, he's like an eel. He's turning 180 degrees. He's spinning, trying to move toward Trump so that Trump saves him, so that Belarus doesn't become a bridgehead, so that no one launches anything from Belarus, so as not to get stuck in this Putin story. Putin is making a final push. Lukashenko doesn't want a final push. Better let Putin make the final push and end up in the ground during it than Lukashenko. You see, it's important for Lukashenko to wait Putin out, outlast him, and survive him in the end. Because he knows that in the end, only one will remain. Well, Putin wants to be the one left at the end without Lukashenko. And put his own puppet there, another colonel or lieutenant colonel, not from Belarus, but from Russia. And Lukashenko doesn't want that. But since the issue is very acute now, since Vladimir Putin needs a Belarusian bridgehead, needs Belarusian territory, needs this war, needs escalation and the forcing of everything, I talk about this constantly and tirelessly. He needs to remove Lukashenko if he says, sorry, I only have bread and potatoes for you. Bread and potatoes. There's nothing else. For this very reason, Vladimir Putin will likely try to either squeeze Lukashenko, or if that fails, he'll try to remove him. And there's only one way to remove him. We understand perfectly well how. Elimination. So the security is bought, everyone is bought. And Lukashenko knows this perfectly well. He understands all the risks, weighs all the risks, and he's preparing for a confrontation with Putin. For Ukraine, it's important that Putin doesn't touch or destroy Lukashenko right now, regardless of what kind of person he is. That's what's important now. God forbid Putin gets full control over the territory of Belarus. Right now, he doesn't have full control. No matter how much anyone might want to either exaggerate the situation to the extreme or conversely downplay Lukashenko's influence. Lukashenko has influence over Belarus, Lukashenko holds Belarus, and Lukashenko is currently slithering like an eel between Putin and who knows what else. That's why I'm looking at such a scenario, quite a serious one for us. It's a very important challenge. It's important to watch this right now in these very minutes. Dasha, what will Vladimir Putin do? Save the cash. He's already doing it. After all, I told you about Roman Arkadievich Abramovich. They're already moving money out. They're already moving their export cash, what they're still earning from their main capital and wallet, the Evraz Group. They're already moving it out of the States. He's already trying to save his offshores, his shady firms, his cash. He's already doing it. He handed over the investment portfolio to Kirill Dmitriev so that he would be untouchable, made him a sort of diplomatic figure who can save various investment projects on United States territory, Vladimir Putin's cash in the States or in Europe or wherever else. He's already doing it. Those schemes were drawn up long ago. What will Vladimir Putin do? He'll try to gloss over it once again. He'll try to drag out some negotiation process once again. He'll talk about humanitarian exchanges. They're already talking about children, already gathering some children and so on. It's all already happening. The question is something else. Why do I say some? Because it's not for broadcast, but they show children who are living now in the occupied Donbass. And he tells them, you're doing your crunches wrong, damn it. Hands behind your head. Hands behind your head, Kat said. To the children. And Nabiulina and a few other mugs are sitting there and laughing. At Vladimir Putin's humor. Laughing because they know that soon they'll be put against the wall, hands behind their heads, and Putin himself will have them shot to hell. Nabiulina feels that things are going to hell in Russia. And she knows that everything will be pinned on her. And she knows that a terrible fate awaits her. And that she'll either just be neutralized, disposed of, or, God forbid, even taken out. In the literal sense of the word. That's why Putin is already preparing. They'll try to butter up Trump, negotiate with him. Let's talk about a meeting. But listen, Trump can't stall anymore. The only thing he's giving, just like with the Iranians, is time to prepare. The Iranians were able to take missiles and move them somewhere, at least some of them. Well, now this fellow, instead of missiles, nuclear cash. He takes it in briefcases, just not nuclear ones with a button. Locks this money in a bank and moves it to Russia, to Russia, to Russia. He's only about money and about power, nothing else. There's no question of history, of how he'll go down in history. All of this is for the plebs. It's chess for idiots, Dasha. The question is something else. There's only one question. How to keep power. How to keep the cash. How to then pass that cash to whoever it needs to go to. That's it. And ideally, not pass it to anyone and live forever. That's it. There's nothing else. There's nothing else. And sanctions will come. And they'll be tough. But these sanctions would be much tougher if Putin hadn't prepared. It's one thing if you've moved your money and it's safe. It's another thing when your money is gone. And what will you do then? Or if that money is frozen? This isn't $300 billion of Russian gold reserves. Some funds floating around Europe. He doesn't care about that cash. That's the Russians' money, not his. But this here is his money. And the main thing is that this money isn't touched. And right now he's writing everything off completely. That's what's happening now. Putin is grabbing cash from every single corner, just taking it. The problem is he has nowhere to go. He won't be able to fly anywhere. He can't hide it anywhere except in his bunker. And everyone knows everything about this bunker. The Americans, Putin's guards, Patrushev, and everyone else involved, including all of them.
By the way, you said that American and European intelligence know all the bunkers, track Putin's movements, and could eliminate him if needed. That's a very interesting topic.
Of course they can, and of course they know. Moreover, they know what material the bunkers are made of. Exactly which building the locks are in, where Vladimir Putin is right now, which rooms he has, where his secret tunnels are, and so on. Iranian and North Korean engineers differ from Russians in one way, Dasha, professionalism. They can actually go ahead and build bunkers properly, build hangars correctly, and make proper underground tunnels. North Korean engineers dig tunnels right up to South Korea, and nobody even knows about their X's. Nobody knows they even exist. But Putin's were built by clumsy Russian engineers who stole the money, didn't dig anything right, and didn't protect anything properly. And Putin knows perfectly well that his bunker is no safer than his portable toilet. When it blows, all the crap will just fly everywhere and nothing will be left.
Sasha, can you tell me what's going on right now? Why are these ethnic and inter-ethnic wars and conflicts starting to break out inside Russia? And where do you think this situation could possibly lead in the future?
Well, they have this obsession now that migrants are to blame for everything. The head of the church, Kirill and Bastrikin, Putin's old college buddy, just started this mass hysteria. And who's carrying it out? The FSB. Locally, it's the cops, the police. Well, the militia is doing it. Though maybe it's the police now. Who knows what they call them in Russia these days? That's not the point. The point is something else. They went in, arrested some people, started talking about the Safarov brothers. Man, 50 people in Yekaterinburg pinned down, another operation, faces on the floor. But at the same time, they just kidnapped people. Lots of people are missing. It's just unclear where they are now. Simultaneously, they killed two people. They just tortured them, beat them, tortured them, and so on in a basement. Killed them, beat them to death. It's unclear how and for how long they beat them or what else they did. Now the bodies have been brought to Baku in Azerbaijan. 2 bodies. There's hysteria there. They're starting to strike. It's clear that this is also revenge against Azerbaijan. Oh, so you shot down a plane? We shot down a plane. And we're supposed to apologize. Who do you think you are that we should apologize to you? Some Caucasians, some Ukrainians, some Belarusians, some Moldovans. We are great. We are Russians. The whole country's in deep shit, but we are great. And that greatness is left God knows where. And even that was all built by foreigners. Italians, Portuguese, Jews, French, Germans, and so on down the list. But they killed 2 people. What does Aliyev do? He punched them in the face. He gave a resounding slap to Putin and everyone else. They paid their way out of the plane incident. But now what can be done? You can't pay your way out. There's no paying your way out because it's all out there now. This is already the 2nd incident. They caught 2 FSB agents. So what is the essence of the situation? They've now caught 2 FSB agents, actual FSB employees, who were working there in Baku under the guise of journalists, with journalistic and propaganda credentials from Sputnik Azerbaijan and Sputnik Russia.
Yes.
2 FSB agents. Nothing like this has happened before, Dasha. It's never happened before that on the territory of post-Soviet countries, at least in Central Asia or the Caucasus. Ukraine is a separate story. In Central Asia and the Caucasus, they just grab them, twist their arms, throw them in jail, try to deport 2 FSB agents and expose these 2 FSB officers. Who, by the way, as I saw, one received 2 million in a year and the other more than 1 million. What kind of journalists must they be? Sorry, you'll bleep that out. What kind of journalists must they be to, man, just take and get that kind of cash? There, especially for Azerbaijan, that's not bad money, not at all. You can live quite well. You can live quite well, Dasha. So they must be some kind of journalist propagandists. I don't know what will happen next. But with this kind of approach, soon Aliyev will grab Margarita Simonian by a certain place, kidnap her, and send her to a secret lab if Putin doesn't understand any other way. If Putin doesn't understand any other way. And I suspect that the situation will continue to worsen. In other words, both Baku and Moscow have dug in their heels. Putin doesn't want to apologize. Aliyev doesn't want to swallow all this, and he won't. Turkey is behind Aliyev. They have a joint army. If they want to, Ankara and Baku, they could just completely mess everything up in all of Central Asia and the entire Caucasus. And it will be very difficult for Putin. Even without Iran, they can quite easily manage on their own. Now imagine the Turkish army suddenly appearing in Crimea. Where would the Black Sea Fleet of the Russian Federation be? If Erdogan goes there under the guise of peacekeeping? Putin loves peacekeepers after all. So little green men, Turkish little men would enter, little red men with a crescent moon. What would he do? Where would his Black Sea Fleet be? Where would all those occupiers of his be? Where would it stand? Where would his army stand? What would happen to the Crimean Bridge then? What would happen to the Crimean Bridge if Malyuk gave Erdogan explosives? You see, we're talking about all these things, Dasha, but the most notable thing in this situation is this. They just went in. It could be anything. All these people could have been connected to crime. They could have worked somewhere. It could have been an organized crime group. They could have been legal. They could have been ordinary civilians. We don't know what it was at all. They went to people and killed them. Killed and tortured them. That's the most important thing. It doesn't matter what happened there, what the background was. They went in, killed, tortured, and there was an order from above. They would never have done this if there hadn't been an order from above. If there hadn't been an order from above, Tajiks were taken after Crocus City Hall and tortured. There was an order from above. These ones were taken, tortured, and killed. There was an order from above. And Putin is responsible for this, and Bastrikin is responsible, and all those people who started this migrant hysteria. Now, migrant children aren't allowed to live in Russia at all if they don't study. If they don't pass that crappy unified state exam. If they don't participate in this whole stupid system at all. Just mass hysteria. And in fact, it's not just simple repression that we're seeing here. It's actually a huge, overwhelming wave. It's a massive, bloody, and extremely repressive machine that has now been unleashed upon the people. And now at this point, they'll try to do absolutely everything in parallel, all at once, in order to hit all the former republics very hard and strongly. Notice, Dasha, I'm saying one last thing. Now it's Azerbaijan, now it's Azerbaijan. They've started. All those Zatulins in the State Duma are already saying Azerbaijan is next. This is our territory. Azerbaijanis are actually Russians, just different Russians. Turkey has nothing to do with them, they're already saying there. But Dasha, they hit Kazakhstan with a drone. They launched drones at Kazakhstan, said they were Ukrainian, but it was Russian Defense Minister Belousov and Chief of General Staff Gerasimov. Drones flew towards Kazakhstan. I think Tokayev is just in shock, to put it politely, from this whole story. He just ate bread with Putin at Lukashenko's, and then suddenly Russian drones are flying over Kazakhstan. Well, what kind of signal is that? Another signal. You're ours too. I mean, he's already going crazy. I'll explain the reason. There's only one reason. There's no money left for Ukraine. Here, whatever happens, happens. Especially after Trump's sanctions. So here he's gradually starting to wind down, at least in his head. But he needs a constant war. Kazakhstan. Well, okay, that's one story. China's there. With Azerbaijan, it's Turkey. But he needs to pick a victim. Who's next? Now it's Armenia. There's hysteria, the Orthodox Church. We sent our oligarch agent and you're trying to destroy him there. He's looking for a victim. He's looking for where to start another war and a mess. Right now. And he'll soon open a second front.
I just wanted to add, as you were saying, Morden just yesterday made a statement that Baku is a Russian city, and it's time to start a special military operation.
There you go. They're already preparing for something. They can't forgive Aliyev for how he slapped them in the face during the Karabakh story. They can't forgive Aliyev that Putin had to apologize to him. They can't forgive Aliyev for just turning around toward Ukraine. Now imagine, Dasha, we talk about Turkish troops, Erdogan, forget all that. Azerbaijan and Turkey are two key countries through which all sanctioned goods enter Russia. Besides China and Iran, these two countries are the most important. Imagine if they weren't there. If they block all dual-use goods, civilian goods, and so on, what will Putin be left with and his decaying, crumbling economy, where today is already a holiday of, I repeat, total failure? A red-letter day on the calendar. What will he do with it? Nothing. So he's in a situation where he escalates where he shouldn't escalate. But he can't stop anymore. I think it's obvious. Imagine if we also bombed all the Oreshnik missiles that Putin had. All the Oreshnik warehouses. The Oreshnik warehouses went up in smoke. There's no more Oreshnik. That's it. A catastrophe. Well, can you imagine such news? Now that's success. You brought that up, and then news came that some old man almost beat up Arestovich. They're reporting that some old guy almost beat up Arestovich. Reading such news against this backdrop, Dasha, listen. I think it's just surreal at this point. But we live in a world where on one hand Putin prepares Oreshnik strikes and Putin tries to destroy Ukraine, and on the other hand some patriotic old man hits Alexei Arestovich at some market in Spain. That's the world we live in today. Although both news stories have a lot in common. They have one thing in common. You can't just go and lose your humanity in any situation. Lose your humanity, betray, and you'll get punched in the face.
I have a question, Sasha. How was Alexei Arestovich allowed to leave Ukraine? That's the main question.
I don't know. I'm interested in another question. I have another main question, Dasha, regarding Alexei Arestovich. On what money, or rather on what Russian money, does Alexei Arestovich live? First. My second question is, why on earth did the country need such a psychotherapist who sold out to God knows who and who's pushing absolute Kremlin narratives? And the third question, why is his rhetoric now identical to Medinsky's? These are important questions. As for everything else, let the law enforcement and authorities of Ukraine answer regarding Alexei Arestovich or anyone else like him.
And our audience can also comment on this, by the way. It's a great topic for the comments. Sasha and I just asked 3 questions, right? How he went abroad, how he was allowed, and whose money he lives on, and all the other questions Sasha asked. So dear audience, write in the comments what you think about this. We're leaving it up to you. Right, Sasha?
You see, it's just striking that a person who had such high political influence and organization in Ukraine has simply died, politically died. He's a political corpse now, and he buried himself. He buried himself under the floorboards, you know?
Yes, and we just remembered, I think Medinsky said yesterday, right, that Odessa is a Russian city. If I'm not mistaken, they're starting up this rhetoric about Odessa again. I understand that information has already surfaced that Putin wants to seize Odessa. Well, it's a completely unrealistic scenario, but what is even going on in their heads, in those sieves?
Listen, well, the man wants to seize Odessa. The man thinks that if he takes 50,000 or however many of his troops, he can seize Sumy. The man believes he can seize all of Ukraine, even though everyone, even the British, are openly writing to him saying, look, at this rate, you'd need 99 or 100 years. You won't live that long. Just forget about it. He has these senile, delusional fantasies of his. Medinsky echoes him. Medinsky's job is just like Peskov's. One's a liar, and the other, it turns out, echoes it every single day. They're all lying to themselves. In general, all these people don't matter at all. All the plans are in Putin's head, not on Gerasimov's maps. All the dreams and all the goals are in Putin's head, not Peskov's or Medinsky's or anyone else's. He has one goal: to gain and hold on to power and grab as much money as possible before the end. That's it. And the main thing is to stay in power. So he looks and thinks, okay, good, the Ayatollah stayed in power. Yes, maybe there's effectively no nuclear weapons left. Yes, the power is already shaking. Yes, many of the inner circle are gone, killed off, but he stayed in power. And the country has become even poorer, and the country has become even more internally outraged, and there will be an even bigger explosion later. This is perfectly clear and obvious. But he stayed in power, and so he wants to stay in power, and he plans to stay in power. That is his most important goal. To outlast all these Patrushevs, Sechin's, Medvedevs, Shoigu's, Abramovich's, Deripaskas, and stay in power. And if necessary, to pack them into train cars and send them to Siberia. All those who disagree with the party line, or rather with his policy.
Sasha, you're now finalizing what I wanted to ask you. I don't understand what's happening between the representatives of Chechnya and the Ministry of Defense. What is this situation where near Belgorod, Kadyrovites beat up a military policeman, forcing Gubarev to attack Alaudinov? Why did Adam Kadyrov suddenly get married? Is it because Chechnya will soon have a new leader? What do you think is going on between the Ministry of Defense and the Kadyrovites? And why did Ramzan Kadyrov suddenly vanish while his son met with Putin before the wedding?
What's going on? It's another attack on Kadyrov. But on the other hand, Kadyrov is using this meeting between Putin and his son to show everyone, calm down, my clan will keep the power, no matter what. Putin supported me, so everyone just relax. And he's telling the Ministry of Defense to shut up. And the disgruntled ones in the FSB are also keeping quiet. While those who help Kadyrov from the other side, like the first deputy director of the FSB, they are actually rubbing their hands in anticipation. So the situation right now is quite simple. They showed the son, married him off, he's the future heir. Kadyrov is in whatever state he's in, we don't know, but that's it. Power remains with Kadyrov for now. It's a signal to the elite. And immediately, everyone congratulates the son. Volodin, Peskov, the whole elite. But why are they congratulating him? Because it's obvious that yes, Putin has bet on him, but not for right now. It's a matter of age. I think this Adam Kadyrov is only 17. Besides that, these are issues related to strengthening his position, the clan, and so on. The father Kadyrov will do everything to ensure power passes to his clan, his sons, his family, and his inner circle. He's not interested in anything else, but he's preparing escape routes. I don't know for whom, for himself, for his loved ones. And like Lukashenko, he's sending money now to Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. That's clear, right? So he's making himself a parachute, a backup plan. In case something happens to Putin, if Putin turns against him, if the Lubyanka or the Ministry of Defense wins this war, he has a lot of enemies. Only the National Guard is protecting him, essentially in the person of Zolotov. With the FSB, he has completely different contacts and contracts. Some support him, some don't, and so on. So we saw another signal that, yes, the future is mine, the future is my family's, my successor is my son. Putin supported it. Shut up and keep your heads down. I'm not interested in you anymore. And everyone saw this and started congratulating and supporting him. Does this mean that the infighting, some internal struggle between the security forces and Kadyrov will stop? That the FSB or the Ministry of Defense will stop launching drones at gas stations in Chechnya? No. Does this mean Kadyrov will stop playing his game and stay out of situations where he shouldn't be? Like, for example, not accidentally seeing Ukrainian troop concentrations or groups in one direction or another again. No, it doesn't. Does this mean Putin will abandon Kadyrov? No, because Putin needs Kadyrov. Because Kadyrov is truly his loyal foot soldier, no matter how you look at it. Does this mean that Putin can break the link with Kadyrov now? No. And Kadyrov knows this well and assesses the situation. He assesses it normally. He has a very good political instinct. So we are actually seeing in Chechnya the strengthening of power of Kadyrov. And we understand that in this struggle, the military, the Ministry of Defense, individual generals, Bastrikin's investigative committee members have lost. For now. and the situation will show later.
Alexander Demchenko, Sasha, thank you very much and see you soon.
Thank you, Dasha. Until next time, bye.